Well, thanks for stopping back by the 33 Kings Studio channel. I'm your host, Uncle Jay. Today we're going to dive into one of the most intriguing conspiracy theories that I've probably ever heard. And I'm a big avid music fan, love it dearly as you can see, hence 33 Kings Studio. But there's a rumor back in the 60s that the most famous band in the world actually replaced their lead singer because he was killed in a car wreck. So join me as we jump into a yellow submarine and we find out if Paul's really dead. Well, in the 1960s, John, Paul, George, and Ringo, well, they were all the rage because they were the Beatles, and nobody was bigger than the Beatles, not even Elvis. So one can see if this band somehow had a tragedy happen, well, the brakes would have hit. It would have been over. But not necessarily the case, because there's been bands all the way throughout history that's replaced a drummer, guitar player, bass player, pianist, and still had somewhat of a success. But with the Beatles and the height of their success, well, the loss of Paul McCartney, that would have been it. So what gave way to these rumors to begin with? Well, a series of car wrecks and some peculiar things with the Beatles albums that fans had noticed, and just different things that the other band members had said. So let's take a look and let's dive into what actually started these rumors to begin with. 1966, rumors started spreading around that after a long night of a recording session and the Beatles having their notorious battles that they did throughout their career, Paul McCartney sped away and wrecked his car and passed away. And with the help of England's MI5, which is much like the United States CIA, they replaced Paul with a lookalike to spare the public grief and to keep the band going. And in 1967, a similar rumor circulated in London that Paul McCartney had been killed in a traffic accident while driving along the M1 motorway on January 7th. The rumor was acknowledged but quickly rebutted in the February issue of the Beatles book. Now, how does a story like this ever gain any validity, any traction, any popularity? Well, this story happened to gain attention because of just little hints that the band left themselves on the album covers, things they said, things they told in the interviews. Now, is it possible that the band at the height of their success with this story that's circulating around, would there been any way that they could have capitalized on that? Well, sure. But what if? What if it was one of the greatest deceptions in the music industry? Let's take another deeper look at it. Now, there's many versions of this theory, but most of them continue on to say that on November 9th, 1966, McCartney had an argument with his bandmates during a Sgt. Pepper recording session, stormed off and drove off in his car angrily and distracted by a meter maid, which was referenced in the song Lovely Rita, not noticing that the traffic lights had changed, referenced in the song A Day in the Life, crashed and was decapitated, also referenced to in the song Don't Pass Me By. Now, a funeral service was held for Paul, with eulogies by George, which was referenced in Blue Jay Way, and Ringo, also referenced in Don't Pass Me By, followed by a procession, Abbey Road's front cover, with Lennon as the priest, officiating his funeral and burying him. The alleged I Buried Paul statement in Strawberry Fields Forever. Now, to spare the public from grief, or simply as a joke, the surviving Beatles replaced him with the winner of a McCartney look-alike contest. Now, this scenario was facilitated by the Beatles in a live performance with their choosing to represent themselves with a new image for their album, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. So if there's any validity or truth to this story whatsoever, who's the guy that landed the gig of a lifetime? Well, it was reported that he was an orphan, and his name was William Campbell, sometimes called Phil Ackrell or Billy Shears. Now, supposedly Billy won a look-alike contest, and the Beatles had actually seen him, and even George Harrison said it was uncanny at the resemblance. But could it be possible? Well, you can look here at this photo, and you see a picture of Paul McCartney then and a Paul McCartney much later. There are some differences, some very visual differences, and more fans noticed it. What do you guys think? Did Paul McCartney die on that fateful day on September 9th, 1966? Well, who knows? And we'll probably never know. Now, there are some very, very noticeable differences in the early photos and the later photos, and some of them even show a taller Paul McCartney. But you be your own judge. You do your own detective work. Leave a comment in the section below and tell us what you think. And above all, if you like what we're doing here and you love hanging with Uncle Jay, hit that like, hit that subscribe button, and above all, keep searching for light in a world full of darkness. Until next time, we'll see you.